having a database. What is the point of going for a database? First of all, you can have the data stored in different places. So if you go for like a file system, in a file system, what will happen? The data will be stored in rest. But if you want something, it cannot help you to get it, right? There is no way that it will guide. Let's say there is a CSV file. So with 1000 rows or 100 columns or anything, but it will not do anything actively to you. Whereas if you see a database, it will do some kind of extra activity. There will be a particular way of accessing. If you do in a particular way, you can handle large data also. So if you read something from a file, so then it will be very much slow. So that's the reason databases came to picture. Within the databases, there are like different kinds of databases. So first and foremost is like within the file systems also, there is something called as SQLite. SQLite or SQLite 3, which is the common thing called as. This is a file system based. This is file system based or like in memory, both. So databases are like three types. So process based means running in a particular process and so, or like in memory. So there are like in due course, many things came in these classifications. So in the types of databases. So first and foremost is like, file system based. So the SQLite is both like for the file system based, means you will create like a file, and also like in memory also it will does the SQLite. So if you go for the process thing, again, there are like many databases like that. So if you see the most common things are like MySQL, MS SQL, all these things will come. And again, there is one more classification called as the relational and non-relational. What do you mean by that relation, non-relation? That I will tell shortly. If there are two tables, there are some relation between them. Those are called as relational tables, RDBMS. The most good examples are like MySQL, MariaDB, or like MS SQL, Microsoft SQL, or simply this, if someone says SQL, that is also the same thing. SQL, Structured Query Language, but we call it as SQL. SQL is the common way of naming it, or Oracle DB, or like PostgreSQL. So there are like many things like this, but these are the common. And in the course of non-relational, there is something called as MongoDB, which is quite famous, and Cassandra database like that. And now new kinds of variants came, like GraphDB, and a lot of things came. GraphDB is there, which is for like distributed, and it can serve like multiple things. And also like you have in memory also different kinds of things. But I don't want to go to too much of it. So I want to focus more on this SQLite. So SQLite is 3 is like the most inexpensive. Means like you don't need a process to serve. It is very lightweight. So with the SQLite, either you can manage in memory also. In memory means if you have a Python program, in that you have a dictionary. That is also in memory. So, but like if you have a dictionary or something, once you close, it will be vanished, right? So here also the same thing. But if you want persistence, you can store in a database. So it supports both in memory and also like file system based. Both it will support. And in terms of syntax, it is mostly compatible with the relational databases like MySQL. So what are your learning will be more easy. And so wherever you go, it is inexpensive. So this would be the default database if you go for Django or so and so. But for Flask, we need to mention what is the database like that. So coming to the SQLite. So how to start with it? First, we need to install the SQLite. So there are multiple ways of installing. If you are in a Linux or so and so, there is a yum install SQLite 3 is there. So that's how you need to install. So that's a simple process. But if you are in Windows, there is something called as Chocolatey. So using the Chocolatey, we need to install. So how things works is like this simple. If I go to any of the website, say SqlAlchemy, okay. So if I say like SqlAlchemy install SQLite 3, then it's gonna install the same. If I just Google that SqlAlchemy install so and so, it will go to the software and you can see. For the very first time, you need to install SqlAlchemy, as I told earlier. So after that, if you just do a command called as Choco install SQLite, that's it, it will install. So, and if you do upgrade, Choco upgrade SQLite, Choco uninstall so and so. It's a very simple process. You can do in a next process. So what will happen once you install? Once you install, if you open a command prompt, either in your directory or in any other directory, you can open a thing and you can see back. So instead of just opening a command prompt somewhere else, I will open within our system itself. If I open a terminal, say here, how do I ensure that SqlAlchemy was installed? So first we need to install SqlAlchemy, install SqlAlchemy as I told, and after that like Choco install SQLite. If you do that, it's a step-based process finds. If I say SQLite, it won't run. I need to say SQLite 3 because that's the name that they gave. What is it? Connected to a transient in-memory database. So use a .open file name to open a persistent database. Means what are the operations you do? So it will be just like that. And if you want a specific way, so then you should specify that. So if I want to make some kind of in-memory operations, say like I want to get that database or something, say I will do SQLite 3. Within that I have like help. If I ask for the help, what is saying? It's a dot help. It is asking. Yeah, sorry, I'm back again here. Yeah, it is saying dot help. If I say dot help, it will give the entire help. Like what all things you can do with this. See, starting from say archive and all these things are there. But simply for you to understand, you need to understand what is the version. Say you can say dot version. It says what is the version of this SQLite, and then what is the stats. If I say like dot stats, so it is saying what is the statistics, how many usage, what is the allocation, all this information. And say like if I say dot show, it will show what all information, basic information about it. And till now, did we create any tables? No. As we didn't create any table, if I say dot tables, there is nothing. So how do you create the tables? So for creating the tables also we can use. So whenever you want to create a table, then how do you create a table? Say, I want to say like create table. What are the table name I have? Say it's easy to write in a notepad, then we can type there. Say if you want to do like a create table, I will create a table with some kind of records. So till now, whenever you are writing a CSV file, we write a header and we add the values, right? In the same fashion, for the tables also in the same way, we need to say like, hey, create a table called as users. So these were the columns like ID, name, and email. And for each of the column, what is the data type? That also we need to mention. And after mentioning the data type, we should specify anything related to it. I am saying that this is a primary key. Means in this table, for each of the record, this ID column will be unique. Means primary, that's the most common thing. And email ID is also unique, you told. Unique doesn't mean that primary. So they made it as a primary. Primary means we use that for the references. So now I need to create a small table like this. So just I paste it. You can see that I did it. Now I need to say like dot table. You see there is a table called as users. So after creating the users table, so we can say like we need to insert the records. If I need to insert the records, so this is how I need to do. So insert into what are the table you have, that thing, and what all columns you want to do, that we need to do. Did you see that I didn't mention the ID? Because ID is like a auto increment. It will automatically come. You will never do the thing. And for that, you are adding the values. It doesn't mean that everything should be in a single line. We can write in multiple lines also. So insert into table. What are the table names? For what all columns you want to insert. So for what are the values you have. If I do this statement, and you see now, so if I say tables again, I have only one table and I want to retrieve the values. If you want to retrieve the data, so we need to do select star from tables. If I do a select star from so and so, means in the table, star means give all the columns, say, and similarly, if you want to update an existing value, means like in this table, you have only one record. But if you want to change something, if it is a node, CSV file or something, you can just go and edit it. But here you cannot edit it. If you want to update, you need to write like this. Update with table. So, and what you want to set. So what all things you want to set, you can do it. And where, what is the condition, on which condition you want to do. Did you see now it is very clear, right? Update table and set which columns and based upon what condition. Now what all things have this one, so everything you will get it. And similarly, if you want to delete a particular user based upon these conditions, we can go like this. Again, delete from table as we mentioned, and you are mentioning where a condition. So where condition you're mentioning means whoever has this condition, everyone will be deleted. So before doing that, after updating, if I say select star from users again, okay, semicolon is needed at the end every time. So you can see that what are the records. Now I am trying to delete it. See, for every statement at the end, there is a semicolon. I deleted the record. Now if I execute again the select statement, did you see there is nothing? Still there is a table, but there is no content. So this is how it works.
Uday.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are updating the record, right?
Okay.
But why it is not updating here? Select star from user. The
Where
same
you are
email
updated?
ID. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. The same email ID I think so coming.
Yeah, you updated the same email ID, right? If you update something else, it should come.
No,
Say like this time.
here Jane we here choose John and here Jane, but it's not it not came here.
Okay. You are saying like Jane. You said the Jane dot
Yes.
do. So it's saying it's still it will come. So generally, it should come. If it is a Python, like we do like commit to see the things. Nothing like that. It should come directly. So let me do again. Insert this. Okay, I want to update this time to someone else. Oh, I need to insert the record, right? Okay. Record is not there. If I insert it. Now, if I'm asking this record, it will show the record. Now, if I want to update, the username is same. For this username, I want to update. And again, I want to see the result. when a name is equal to Jordan. Exactly, we have the records, right? If I filter also, I'll get it.
No, you are writing the different name. Jane Doe. We have to write it down, John Doe.
Yes, you're right. So I should make like, Jane Doe. Okay. Yeah. So that's the main thing. See, if you mention the same name, we will get it. John Doe. So if I mention like Jane Doe, exactly I'll get it. Okay, John Doe. So if I execute it, yeah. You see now? Yeah, it was changed. So that is how you do it, okay? If I want to like add or do more records or something else, so but if you one biggest problem with this in memory is that once you come out of it, say control C, if you do also, you come out of it and you clear the screen and you again start it, SQLite 3. So you do, if you ask like show tables now, it will not have. Select show, if I ask, sorry, tables, if I ask, it won't have anything because it is in memory. But if you want to do the same thing within a different way, so we should specify that. So control Z. Till now I am doing SQLite 3, right? Instead of SQLite 3, I mentioned some database name called as my database this time. Now you see in this case, let's say I wanna do, it will create a database. In fact, if you are doing like this, it's gonna create a database. If you do like this command called as SQLite 3 database. So after that, if you do any actions, say like the same thing, whatever we do, the tables, say this create table, right? If I do create records dot tables, it will have user, and again like insert the same your user, what are the user you have here. Okay, and if I see the users, you have like select distinct means you have the user. Okay, and if you want to do the update all operations you do, so you can find. But finally, if you come out of it, say if you want to exit it, then like if I come out of it, okay. Now if I see ls, did you see that there is one database, my database, which is storing all this information. Now again, if I say like SQLite 3, again with the database, it will open. And if I say dot tables, you can see the user table is already there. Means now persistence is there. That's a difference. Select star from users. Now did you see the record is there? So that is the main intention of going for these records. Now the biggest point is like after doing this, so we can do multiple actions from it. Say like you have you want to take a backup, or like if you want to get the convert it to a CSV or something. Say like then we can do like dot mode CSV if I make, and like dot import say my data dot CSV. And what are the table is, you have like users, right? Users is the table. Okay, I need to export, sorry. Export SQLite 3. Yeah, this is kind of like, so once in a while I do like, so dot help, if I say, we will have these options. So yes, yeah. Dot mode is CSV. This is correct. Dot mode. And instead of inputs, I should say like output. If I say output, say my data dot CSV, then you can see a new file called as CSV is created. It will have your data, but still it is not there. So after you done your job, we need to write like whatever your tables or whatever you want to export. Here, a file is created, but if you write like select star from so and so my table, anything. Say select star from users is your table. So users is not there, right? Oh my god, it don't have data. I didn't do. So if you do that, then if you do like a quit, then it will have. If I say now cat my data dot csv, you can see it has that value. Yeah. So what are the values now? It's there. Means first we need to write like the csv mode. We need to write. So means like dot mode is csv dot output. Like what are the file name is? Say my data dot csv, and after that you do any operations that will go select star from say users. What are the users you have? Then after that we need to do dot quit. Means like safely coming out. If I do control C, it may not do, or it may be doing what it will be defined. But it's okay, sir. So this is fine. But a database, it's very hard to understand and so and so. But somehow you managed it. So you have this content. At the same time, there are like multiple data sources which have this data, and we can analyze also this data much better way. So there is one more thing that I want to show is that, yeah, there is one common database called as SqlAlchemy database, which is like most famous. Um, Even if you go for MySQL also there is there. So here also we have. This is like open source database someone has created way back. And if I say that, okay, hope you can see the screen. Fine. Okay. So there is one more database called a SqlAlchemy master database, right? Now we need to open that. So SQLite 3. So SqlAlchemy database I have. I need to open the database. Now I need to show the tables, dot. All things will start with a dot. See how many tables it has? Actors, films, addresses, all this information is there. This is just one of the database which is very popular data set. Now if I want to say select star from actor, so everything should have a comma at the end. I did it. So in terms of actors means all the Hollywood actors. You can see all, right? All actors are there. So if I say like select star from so and so, you did the same thing, right? Now here there is one more thing I would say, limit. And if I say now at the end, did you see this time when I executed this query, I did a limit 10. I got only 10 records. So okay, so this time if I say the same amount command, so limit 10, instead of after limit 10, if I say offset some 3 means, so if you see earlier query, you got like records from 1 to 10, right? You got records from 1 to 10. Whereas now you got the values from 4 to 13. Why? You got again 10, but you offsetted, means you skipped the first 3 records. You wrote like, you told that you want 10 records, but skip the first 3 records. That's what you told. So offset means the same. Okay, sir. Again, if you want to know what are the tables, again, you need to write what are the tables. Command line is like, for the people who are comfortable, it is okay. But for others, it would be like bit tedious to understand what tables are there, what is the relation and all these things. Then what is the solution? How can you analyze this data better way? So to understand that point, you have one more option. To work on this, there is one more thing called as fiddles. If I say there is one popular fiddle called as SQLite 3 fiddle. So fiddles, there are like multiple fiddles are that. If you just type like db fiddle, db fiddles, there are multiple db fiddles are there. DB fiddles means like database if you want to work somewhere. If you want to work on Python script, there is an online Python editors and others. Similarly, for the SQL also we have like SQL fiddles and others. These are like popular tools where you can load your database and do, because like SQLite is very inexpensive, right? File based. They can do in memory and do, or else you can do with these databases also. They are supporting like MySQL, SQLite, and all these things. So here also you can have a SQLite or your main database, and see here there is a DB fiddle. They have ready-made. These many people are using, so created and using. All these databases they are supporting, and this is also another tool. Like many things are there like this. Or if you have one of them is like this SQLite tree fiddle. This fiddle also expects us to do the same thing. If you want to work, either you can load your database here and do it. I found one of the things I told, right? In my files I just want to use the same. I will, what are the, the Shaquila master database which I have. So the DB file, I need to just load it here. So if I load it, you can see that it is showing that loading the Shaquila master DB progress and all these things happen. It is saying like fix won't work for so and so. So replacing DB with Shaquila master something. So after doing this, okay, now I have the dot tables, same like previously what I did, same that here also I did. The dot tables means I got all the list. Now after doing the dot tables, if I want to say like, hey, say select star from actor. So limit say 4 offset 10, limit for offset 10. Now did you see? You got the records right now, and you are getting the records like in a JSON. You can understand, right, clearly. So which is who is the title? And see, these kind of advantage you have, like better visualization. Every tool has its own advantage. So it's not that one tool is best than the other. Everything has its own way. And also they have like different ways of doing JSON mode, text mode, like that. So whatever may be, I got it one rectable. Similarly, if you want to understand about the actors and their addresses, or actresses and their films. Now if I say select star from film, okay, its name is film. Okay, so that's why I need to say film. If I do like this, if I clear the output and if I run again, did you see everything is coming crazily? So this is a very, very bad statement. We should never do a select star from any table like this. Every time when you are analyzing, we should limit what you are doing. So that's a best practice. And if you want to comment something, you can write a two dots. If you write a two dot slash, then it will become a comment. So in databases, this is the comment operator. For anything before that, if you write two hyphens, so and space, that is a comment operator. So I want to clear this output, but it's crazily executing. This is not a very good idea to work on. So I will say like limit some 10. Okay, next time I will not do like this. It's not a best practice. So every time when I execute, I will do like this. Some limit I give. What is saying? Hey, line 1, I got an issue where you did. So is it like, okay, somewhere like extra space or something. So select 10 records, it's selected. If you want to clear the output, it will clear. Maybe like let's take a 5 records only to better see. You got the things. You can see what is the table and wall information you have. Now I have like multiple things to do. So in this, say like I want select star from actors, say limit 10, 5, select star from film, limit 5. Like that I have two statements right now to run. What is saying? If I clear the output and if I run it, what is saying? No such table called as actors. There is some table called as actor, right? If I execute now, if I clear the screen again, if I run again, did you see? First I got the actor table results 5 records, and the second table also results. I got all the records, film records. So like this, I can work on any of the database. I can work. So if you're saying like there are multiple ways of doing. After doing this thing, you can do multiple queries like relation between two tables, how to make it, and all the efforts are there. Apart from these, to work on, to start with, in real time when you're working, we can work with a raw queries as simple as this one, or we can go for something more complicated also. So in real time when you're working, will you work on these raw queries? To some extent, yes. But most of the time, in real time, we will go for the ORMs. The ORMs can solve our problem much better way. Let's say here also, let me try if this database is like supporting to uh, do our operations. So I did like this one. I want to create a new table now. Select star from, so I want to create a table. So when you are creating a table, say person, I want to create. So what are the table you want to create? We should have a schema. Let me create one table called as this one. For this table, say person, I want to write a schema. Means what all things I need to want in this table. Say like ID, which is like a integer, and which will be like a primary key. Okay. Then I should have a person will have a name which is a text. So on like I will have a age, which is a integer, and like, oh, I need to have a comma at the end every time. Okay, age. And what else I will have? Person will have name, age, gender. Sorry, gender. It is also text field. So like that, we can have multiple fields. So if you want, I will show you all the different types of things which are supported. If you just go to the SQLite 3, so documentation, you can see the original document. So their official document, like what all features are supported, what is the syntax, functionalities, absolute values. So all these things you can see. Say like here, if you see, yes, it is saying like the tools, extension, programmatically. So yeah, date and time, all these functionalities are there. If you ask for the date and time, it will give all this information. So I will show you shortly some of them, but you can just walk through the others also. I just want to create a small table now. So if I just run, so running this query, it does nothing, but successfully it will create a table. So it is saying like text to query. And if I say selects show tables, and if I execute run, okay, so it don't have like a thing, right? So it say we need to say tables. That is a SQLite query we do. If I execute it, it is saying what? Yes, you need to write a semicolon first. You need to run. Oh, this is a query side. This is where you write the schema, and here you write the query. Select star from person. So first of all, you will get it. It is showing some results. But if I say dot tables, syntax SQLite error near dot. If I say what? Select star from person. I read correctly only, but somehow, yeah, it executed successfully, but it don't have any records. And if you want to insert the records, here only you can do insert. Yeah, schema you have, right? Here only we need to do the insert queries. So I do like a comment. 2 lines if I write, it will become a comment. Insert into, what are the table name? Table name is person. So what all columns you want to do? ID is like a unique, you don't do it. So but for other columns you do, like name, age, gender. So and mostly these names are like it will be agnostic of the data type. Sorry, case. If you write like capital name also, it will take. But values, whatever you store in that way only it will store. So what is the values that you want to pass? Say Uday, age is 23, male. If I write something like this and a semicolon at the end, if I execute, it is saying query successfully executed. And after that, if I comment these two lines, same our operator, control and a slash. Then after that, if I ask select star from person, if I comment as I commented both of them, I should get the result. Don't know why it's not coming here, but output should come here. That is what the point of. So like that, if you want to work with a database like this in the command line, you can work, or in a UI you can work, or else you can install some kind of tools. Some SQLite tools are there. So offline tools also there. You can just go and install them. So based upon your usage, you can work on it. So like SQLite 3 tools, if you ask, there were like plenty of SQLite tools. You can just download locally and you can use. So if you see, so SQLite Studio, there is something called as, SQLite Studio. Yeah, SQLite Studio. This is the most famous. So in terms of SQLite, if you are working, the same thing. Whatever you work in a locally also you can work. That's one point. Similarly, this is one kind of database, but very few people work on it. There are other databases like mostly people use it like MySQL, MS SQL, Oracle, Postgres, and MongoDB. These are all the other things. But before even going there, we can say programmatically how to work as a Python developer. So there are two ways. Programmatically, you can work with by creating a Python module and work on it. Say programmatically to work, right? So sorry, I need to create a dot SQLite 3 usage dot py. Instead of a dot py, I'll create a dot ipynb. So that's the best way to do to start with. Okay, how to do this one? Now, if I can focus on it. Okay, so first of all, when you want to work with Python, there is one thing you need to understand is called as DB API. So what are the databases we have? So right now we are seeing SQLite 3. Okay, next we will see what MySQL, then MS SQL, then Oracle database, then like Postgres SQL. Okay, then like DB2, IBM DB2. So then like you see a lot of databases are coming like this. For every database, if there is a different syntax, learning language is different. But learning all these modules, how to use each of the module, don't you think it would be tedious for an end user? So that's why they created something called as a DB API. DB API means you need not understand it, but simply understand that whatever the database that you work with in Python, they will follow the same convention. Means everyone will have the same process in terms of first connecting to the database, then getting a cursor, then actions. Whatever the database you go, the logic will be the exactly same. So if I can start with yeah, yeah. So there is a module called as SQLite 3. Okay, second. I need to select a kernel, Python environment. I need to create a virtual environment. That's the best thing that I told, right? We can create a small virtual environment. Earlier also we have a couple of virtual environments. I am selecting that. So earlier we have a Flask virtual environment. That only I'm selecting. But I can also create a virtual environment. That's okay. Now I need to import a module called as SQLite 3. SQLite 3 is a module which is used for working with the SQLite things. What is saying? Hey, for this module, IPv kernel information is not there because that virtual environment we created for Flask application. But till now we didn't work on Jupyter notebooks, right? IPython notebooks. That's why in the virtual environment that is getting installed. Once that is done, so you can get everything done, then you can see everything. After doing this, first we need to connect to a data source. Say this time I want to create a new database and a connection. Connection is equal to SQLite dot connect of, you give some database name. Already I have my database and I also have this Shakila database. So let me open something else. Say like something like another DB, another .db. .db is the file convention. So you have seen like this multiple times, right? .db extension. So the databases also will have the same. I think it's still taking a couple of moments for doing it. But this is how either you connect to an existing database or a new database. The moment you do like this, if the file is not there, it's gonna create it. If it is there, it will connect to it. It won't be like a write operation or read operation, because any database, if you connect, you will do multiple operations, right? So fine, based upon the permissions, you can do it. As it is like a file based, you don't have much things. But if it is a real database like a MySQL or something, there will be rules, roles, etc. So based upon those, you can do the actions. I think it's taking a moment more. Okay, let me do it fast. So to the other, select another kernel. Maybe like I will take the default installation. That's easy because it's taking more time. It is saying what? If I install, it is saying it's taking crazily more time to me. Okay, it created. So fine, some environment I took. Execute now. It created a connection. Did you see? Till now, this another database is not there. Just now it created. So that is how it works. So after creating, we need to create a new table, right? So for creating new table, if you want to do, for that we can go with like getting the cursor. So first we have a connection. After getting the connection, we need to get the cursor. After getting this cursor, with this cursor only you can do any statement. If I have this cursor and I can execute any statement. So first, as we created like a file system and did something, here also I will do the same. So you see,
Uday, yeah,
yes,
what
please.
does it mean, the cursor? Cursor like
Yes, in a file system, when you're doing operations, I hope you remember I told cursor information means something which is moving, something or like a pointer you can think, which can be like helping to move across this.
okay.
So in the same way, connection also same thing. We have a connection means like we have some kind of link between the database and ourselves in Python. After getting the link, so there should be some person should go and do that pointing and doing all actions, right? Imagine that as a cursor.
Okay.
So with that cursor, we can execute any statement. These statements can be two ways. One, they can be like a read statements, or otherwise it can be like a write statements. So I have created some table. So means like what? Create table user so and so. Means I'm creating one table. Don't you think it is a write statement or a read statement? It is
Right.
definitely a write statement. So after doing a write statement, we need to do some kind of commits actually. Because if you don't do a commit, it will not validate this statement. So if you are an ordinary SQLite, you execute some statement, that's it, right? Whereas here, after every action or whatever your action is done, you need to commit this thing. If you don't commit, it will not execute again. So after every write statement, we need to commit. Or you write 2-3 write statements, you do commit. It's up to you. But commit should be there. It's like for a file system, when you're doing a write operation, you do a flush, right? Flush is not mandatory, but if you do, it's a best practice. So in the same fashion here also. And in the same fashion, we use a context manager when you're doing these operations. Means instead of doing like that, as cursor I do. Means it is also your responsible to close the cursor also. after your work is done. Instead of you doing that, we have a better way of doing the things like this. So with cursor off like this, means once you come out of this indentation, it will be done. Now say I want to do something, some actions I will do. So I get the cursor. With that cursor, I want to add. Now we see it's very interesting. Programmatically, when you're adding, if you want to add, you generally do like this. You see, you have two fields to add, and you are writing two question marks. For the first time, see here, question marks. And after a comma, you give a tuple of what are the values you want. Now, this is a generic syntax now, right? So who are these question marks? Like a string replacement. Tomorrow, if I want to add one more record also, I do the same thing. So if I want to add this record, I did it, right? If I want to add one more record, say like some person. So if I say like some dot person dot gmail.com. You see, the two question marks represent two placeholders for values, like a separate tuple you need to pass. After doing your job, you need to commit your transaction. This is very much important. You do a commit your transaction. What is saying? Does not support the context manager protocol. This is more important. Not everything supports this context manager. What it is saying is that, hey, I don't support this kind of context manager with operation, but others support. Means like only SQLite is not supporting. So what we need to do? So for SQLite, we can do directly. So based upon the error, we can understand a lot of things, right? I created the cursor. So I did with that cursor, I did executions and I did a commit. So now actions were done. After doing all your job, again, you need to retrieve the things, right? So now I didn't close the cursor. So if I execute this statement, this is a write statement. This is also a write statement. Creating a table, sorry, you did a creating a table. Here you did like inserting the records. Now you're trying to read the data. Sir, I tried to read the data, but I am not getting anything. If you want to read the records, there is something called as, after doing that operation, cursor.fetch. If I say dir of this cursor, you will notice that what all operations it is supporting. If you see the row count, last ID. So if I go here in the text editor, you can see that. You see what all things are there? Array says, close, connection, description, all this information is there, right? So these are like most common things to be used. If I can just go here and ask them. So most common among them was, you already did execute, right? Execute many, I will tell shortly. So description and all this information you can try. So first thing first, you have this connection. You can ask that. You can write a plus command, cursor.connection. It will tell what is that connection about. It's saying SQLite connection. And like, yeah, this is more important, fetch. So, and like row count, this is another thing. These are like most common now. If I say cursor dot, you did some execution, it is saying like row count is -1, means it will not say the exact. Now if I say this one, yeah, these three will make some sense to us. You know, these three. If I say fetch one, fetch many, fetch all, fetch one, if I go, okay, first thing, cursor dot fetch one. If I execute, okay, I will delete these things, necessarily too much. Yeah, you see now, if I did a fetch one, so why I'm getting this? It's very simple to understand. I executed this statement. How many records are there totally? You added 2 records. I did a fetch one, so I got 1 record. And if I do again a fetch one, I get another record. See here, second record. And after your records were done, if you still ask for fetch one, there is nothing, right? That's why you don't get anything. Now, sir, can I ask cursor, same cursor dot, like fetch one, there is another thing called as fetch all. If I ask, there is nothing. Hope you remember, it is like a iterator, like a disposable object. Anytime if you want to get the values, you need to again ask and do it. Means again execute the statement, then again do fetch row, and you get the values. So this is how you work on it. And yeah, so similarly, if I go further, say like, yeah, 1 second. I want to update some records, update data in the table. So if I wanna update the records in the table, then you remember earlier I did some kind of query. So here I did like a update query, update users, some table, so and so I did. In the same fashion, here also we can do. Again with that cursor, you write what are the update statement you have, and based upon which value you want to update what. So two placeholders are there. You pass the two values. So if you want to do multiple updates or one update, this is also write operation. So every write operation should have a commit at the end. So once the commit is there, these changes will go. And after you have committed, if you want to see the data again the same logic, you can ask select start from and do it. So if there is a Jane so and so, name is like a Jane Doe, right? So Jane Doe is there. So yes, it is there, it has updated. So you need to understand the query and how I am executing. After it was done, if I want to delete data from the records, how do you delete the data from the records? So for that, I need to delete the data from the records means, so again, delete from users where some statement is there. So delete from users where name is so and so. Sir, I have a exact statement. I don't want like this. Means you can directly write here also instead of question mark in one a single execution. But if you want to pass the values dynamically, this is how you do. And did you see this should be second value should be a tuple. That's the reason even if it is single value also they placed a comma at the end. So that's the point. And if you execute now, it is deleting the record. Now, next one more interesting thing. And say if I want to yeah, so this one is done. So I have my database. After deleting, what else operations I'll have? 1 second to say. After the development, yeah, there is one more thing called as creating an index. This is another interesting point. What do you mean by an index? Earlier I didn't tell you. What is an index means? Let's say I have some records. So I have a big CSV file, something. I'll have like 10 records or 20 records or something, or some millions of records are there. So I have ID column, I have a name column, age column, so gender column, something for a person table. I have same person table or something I have. So if I say like I have values from 1, like say some 50 million, I have some values. In this 50 million, if I want to check for some values, say I am doing based upon the name or the ID or something. Say assume that the name is so and so. Based upon name, I am picking all details. So just imagine like daily when you make a call, it is checking the entire entry from starting till ending. And if it is giving you a value, then it will be very much slow. Just imagine like you have a book has 100 pages. You want to search where your chapter is beginning. So then what you will do? If you will just say verify all the pages means it's very difficult, right? That's the reason in the book you will have a index page in the starting, right? Index page in book. What is the purpose of index page in book? So will it add anything new? No, it will just store that, hey, so first page contains this one, second page contains this one. So chapters, where chapters are beginning, where it is ending, means like a one kind of extra support to you, right? Indexing means page index. That's a very simple example to remember. So chapter 1, it is starting at like first page. Chapter 2 is starting at say 23rd page, like that it will tell. Then if you want to go to chapter 2, exactly you will go to 23 directly. So it's easy for you, right? In the same fashion, in the databases also, if you want to create index, so there is a statement for creating index. So based upon the which column you are doing in the where conditions, because that is where you are doing a lot. So based upon that you do it. But at the same time, be cautious. Too much indexing also will be difficult, because like when you're doing an update statement, it need to re-index everything. So that's the point. Whenever there were too many updates in a table, don't go for indexing. If you do that, it will be a counterproductive to you. If you do like, create index, email index, I'm saying, what are the name you want? On what table and what is the column? This is most important. Users is a table. On that, I want to do the indexing for the email column. So I wrote some name for it. It's up to us what our name I want. I can create a cursor. So I created like a indexing. And similarly, if you want to take a backup of your database, say you can take a backup of it. Hope you remember. So I told there is one module called as shuttle. Shuttle is a module to take a exact copy. For any file system to take a good copy, it is used. If you are in a Linux, we use something called as mv, right? So move is a command we use. Move. So from old file to new file. What is the file name I had took? So another .db, right? So that's what. Generally in Linux, what is the statement? Another .db. So to like another, so backup.db. This is how you do a Linux statement. If you want to do the same thing in shuttle, you have shuttle.copy, and you need to specify like another .db, and I want to change to another backup.db. If I execute right now, did you see in the current directory a new file is created like a backup? So generally this kind of things will happen. And if you want to restore back from that, you can again do it. So if you want to restore it back, say you can suddenly you want to restore it back. So you can say like, again shuttle.copy of. So whatever the source is destination, you can do. So I have like from this one, I want to take say another backup.db. From there, I want to write like another .db. This is how I do a replacement and a restoration of the database. And similarly, if you want to import the data from a CSV file, you have a CSV file. From that CSV file, you want to import all these records to your thing. Of course, there is something called as pandas, which makes things much more easy. But without pandas also, I'm telling. Say like if I have some CSV file, from that CSV file, if I want to do, this is how I do. So first I import CSV file, I do a reader dot do, and like this. You remember, if you do like reader, means the first line I need to skip, and subsequently I get all the records. For all the records I need to pass. Assume that I am having a CSV which is containing this information. See in this table what I have. So I need to create, say my data.csv I need to have. Say like my data.csv should have 3 columns, column 1, column 2, column 3. Which are the columns I have? Here in that in our schema, what do you have? Yeah, we have like, so ID, name, email ID, name, email ID. Yeah, if I can do like, okay, let me take some dummy records. So if I go here, yeah, it is already having one, say two, Uday, some email ID. Okay, so 3. something. I am writing some dummy thing. Someone. Some 4 or 5 records I created. Now I have these records. From these records, I need to get. See, if the data is not exactly correct, then it will not come. Say I'm doing what? I'm trying to read the data and I'm doing an update. Now you see, I will get an issue. Yes. It is saying there is no such table. From which table you need to go? User table. User table. What all columns you have? So what all things you need to add? That you need to remember. In this thing, there are 3 things called as. So do we have a header here in the CSV file? Not every CSV file has a header. So if some files don't have a header, you need not skip that. In this file, there is no header, so you need not skip it. So what else you need to do? In the CSV file, now first column is like ID, name, and email ID. 3 things are there. So you also want like ID, so name. So because how I'm writing these values? Based upon my database. In my database, I wrote 3 things like ID, name, and email. So I want these 3, so I can do it. So if I say ID, name, CSV file, there are 3 values are coming. Each time in the row, it will get 3 values I'm trying to add. So insert into table called as user. It is saying like no such table called as user. Are we using till now to the users? No, users, yes. So if I take the same thing, insert into table users, then you see now unique constraint failed user.id. Because like you are not supposed to add this value. So you need to not do the ID. Because earlier also, did you see that you did add ID field? Generally, we don't add ID field, right? So even in the uppercase also you saw, you didn't add the ID field because that is auto-generated for the uniqueness constraint. So you should not add it. Then what is the solution? In your CSV file, there are 3 columns. There the numbers are there. But you don't want that. Then what I need to do? I should get the values from 1 onwards. And I should not add the ID. If I remove, here also I need to remove one of them. Now I have 2 values. If I execute, so what is saying now, uniqueness constraint failed for the email ID. So email ID, there is someone which is common like this. So we need to handle this one. So how do you handle the uniqueness constraint value? Yeah, we can have like a try, and we can say like except exception as ex, and we can print that exception. Sometimes they want to roll back a transaction. So for only one of them, it has executed like that. So for which of the row it happened, so we can print that row. So maybe like that row, we wanna print it. You can see that for each of the row it failed because continuously I'm executing the same thing on the same file, right? So fine. So, but like after executing, after doing an insert, we should commit it. Maybe like, if you want, I can clean the entire thing. So delete from tables and I do it. So freshly. So that is also a way. So if I do like, how do I do? Cursor dot execute of delete from so users. Generally, if I do just delete from users without any where condition, this is very like, very dangerous. If you do like this, some of the databases we even won't do it execute to better safely help you. Because if you do delete from users, from the table, everything will be deleted. So that's the reason if you go for modern databases like SQLite, MySQL or so-and-so, they'll give a warning. Means programmatically, if you do, no one will give a warning. So we can worry that. But this is not a good practice. But because if you do like this, after that, if I ask, hey, give me all the records. If I say select star from and give me all the records, you see now what will happen? There is nothing. And if I take the same one, importing from CSV, and if I execute now, there is no more uniqueness constraint. Now nothing will happen, everything will come. Whatever you have added, everything will be there. If I execute, you see all records are coming. And database is having all the values. Hope it's fine. Similarly, one last point to say here is that let's say if I want to add some 10 records, because like I am specifically what I am doing in the CSV file is very sharp. I am taking some two names, means some values, and I am doing it. And I can do the same thing here. 1 second. Yeah. So one more thing I want to do here is that fetch all means you got all the values. Similarly, there is one more thing called as fetch many. Fetch many. In fetch many, you can specify how many you want. Say like totally there are 4 records. I want 3 records. Then if you do, or like 2 records, if I say, I'll get only 2. You see? And after that, if I say fetch 1, cursor dot fetch 1 means what? The next record I will get. And after that, if I say, hey, give me fetch 2 also, already it has retrieved the values, right? You see, there is a difference between, so again executing and asking and before doing. I executed this one statement. First I got 2, then I got 1, third one. Then if I ask 2 values also, as it has only 1, it gave only 1. So that is how it is. Like if you want again, you need to again pass and use it. Like that, you need to do all your options. But after finally doing all of them, you can, you can create, you can close the connection. So after doing the closing the connection, you cannot do any operations. This is how a typical SQLite database works. But so do we do like this, sir, in programmatically? Yes, of course. In some of the databases, when you're doing actions or you do some, let's say you work on some automation, daily you're getting some records and you want to pertinently store, you can use a SQLite, everything is fine. But when you go to the web applications and REST APIs, there will you use the SQLite queries directly? So if you can observe carefully, though you are using a Python language, but you have inherently the SQL queries only. So there are 2 points. There is something called as like injection attacks, SQL injection attacks. Means what you are doing, you are getting some values and you are doing inserting. Let's say in our database, I have these values. What I am doing here in the last query, if you observe, I am doing like name and email. Whichever comes to these 2 positions, I am just adding it. So then what they will do is like they will exploit this condition. If you see any of the open source, sorry, any of the websites, if someone is saying that they hacked and got some results, how they get is means there is something called a SQL injection attacks. So it is something out of our subject, but if you just Google and get SQL injection attacks, you will understand some idea. So they will do like where condition. So till now, if you want to give the authentication or something, you do like where user is already present or user equal to some user somewhere. You write some condition, right? If the condition is satisfied, only you allow. Then what they will do? Say 1 is equal to 1. They will do. They will modify your query. Instead of sending like where something, they will do something else. So like that, they will modify these things. So that is not out of that is our subject, but just I'm telling. So, and also like not everyone can write these queries. And third, what if today you are using one database for your application? Tomorrow you felt like, this database is not good. I want to replace with another database. Then what is the solution? So daily you cannot go for different databases. So in that case, you need to have something called as a ORM, called as Object Relational Mapper. The next one is called as a ORM, Object Relational Mapper. What it does means like you have SQL query that it will convert to the Python object, and you do all the processing in the Python side. So there will be something called as a ORM between us. Between the SQL and this one, there will be the ORM. So if you give Python object, it will convert to SQL. And if there is a SQL action, it will convert back to the Python object. Means as a human being, as a developer, we will deal only with the Python related things. So there is an advantage that you will see shortly. So if I go to the next one in the SQLite, of course, to understand to you, there are like different kinds of databases like this. So ORMs like this. So most important and common among them is the SQLAlchemy. So ORMs like SQLAlchemy, or we call it a SQLAlchemy. And the other one is like Django ORM. And there are other small tools are there which are not that famous, but they are still there. But SQLAlchemy is the most common thing. And if you work with Django, there is a Django ORM. That is another thing. First to start with, how to work with this SQLAlchemy. So if I say, if I mark it like A, oh my God, too many things we did. Okay, so now if I say B, SQL Alchemy .ipy, and this is another thing. So here to work with, there is a module called as SQLAlchemy. So we need to do like, terminal based commands I can do here also. Pip install SQLAlchemy. So if I do pip install SQLAlchemy -- user, if I am not in a virtual environment, I need to do like this. If I need in a virtual environment, I told like pip env based or like poetry based, I can do. Then it will ask, hey, in which environment you want to be? So say like I want to be in a plain environment, there I want to install, but that's not a good practice. You need to create a virtual environment and do. That's a best practice. So after doing this, if I ask pip install SQLAlchemy -- user, it will install SQLAlchemy. So fine. After installing, you can use it. First, we need to create one database and one connection. For doing this, say I will create one more example. From SQLAlchemy, import engine, and from that engine, I create like this. See, SQLite colon, these slashes, 3 slashes, this is intentional. And what are the database name I have? And echo equal to true. Echo means like for showing the things. And if I execute it, it will create a new thing. So it will create an engine. With this engine, it will connect to this database. SQLite database means till now we did a direct queries, right, on Python. Instead of that, we do like this. So what is the advantage of going this, sir? If you go for a SQL Alchemy, we can understand about this engine first. If I say like help of this engine to understand more about this engine, it is saying that this engine will have these many things like pools, means how many connection pools if you want to manage to the database. All those things we can do here. So what is the dialect? Dialect means SQL. So like MySQL or MS SQL like that. So all this information it has. And similarly, if I go for the help DAR, you can notice like what is the pool name, what is the name of the database, what is the pool size, what is the URL, and all this information. If I say here, typically after this, engine.url means it will give SQLite 3 : database. But if it is like a MySQL or something, you will have that MySQL connection string, we say. So, okay, whatever you got. After this, if you want to work, how we work is like, here also we need to create a database. Earlier, how we did? We created our own database like create query and all. Now we need to do the same user in a much smarter way. So for that, we don't use this kind of raw queries. We create everything from us. For doing that, creating a table. So first we need to do something called as a declare base and do it. When you have everything, you will have different types, right? ID is an integer, which is integer type. Name is a text type. Email is a text type. Like we have some types. Means we need to create the columns and one types also. So for that, we create like this. First, we need to say that I will create like a declare base. Base is something that we create. and we create what are the class. Sure. So previously you created a table. So you created your IDs and all these things. Same similarly, if you want to do here, what are the table you want to create? Users table. So then we need to say like user or users. And like, we need to inherit this base. Means the basic syntax is there in it. From there, it will create anything. And what is the table name that you want to make? Users, because earlier we have users. Like that, I want to create like users. So underscore table name, if you give, you will get it. Or if you don't give it, whatever the table name, class name is there, the same it will come. And after that, I need to add, so these three fields. So the three fields are like we have ID, which is an integer, which is a primary key, name, which is a string, and email. So for that, I need to create these three columns called as ID. ID is equal to, so anytime when you're creating a column, we should use the column. Column is an attribute which you need to use. So similarly, we have name is equal to column. And similarly, we have email is equal to column. So like the three columns. And in these three columns also the types. So the first one is an integer, which is a primary key. Others are two text things. So when they are a text, here we can write a string. String, this is easy. So string is another type we use. And what is the maximum size? Say some 50 I wrote. See, even for the name also, I am writing like string, yes, capital, okay, the string of 50. Similarly, for the ID, as it is like a integer, I write like integer. And in addition, as it is like a sequence ID, I can write like a sequence ID. Means like, because it should be a sequence, right? So continuously. And also here we mentioned that it is a unique, right? Primary key. As it is a primary key, we can write simply primary key is equal to true. That's it. You created a table. So after doing this, now table is created. Now create this table, you created a schema. This should be going there. For that, we should write like base. Means this is common, okay? Means the ready-made syntax is already there. That's why we need to use it. Declarative base dot meta dot create all. If we do now of that engine, on this engine it will run this table schema. First you created the engine, means this engine. On this engine it will run the schema. So it is saying like I did all the things, begin, pragma, all these queens, rack queries, create table. Did you see? It indirectly did the same thing. So ID integer not null. That's what you wrote. Sequence, primary key, and all this information. Whatever you created, exactly it created like this. And now in this we need to add a record. How do you add a record to it? To add a record to it, so we need to first get to a session, and with that session we work on it. So I do like this: SQLAlchemy.orm import session maker. I know that it would be a bit confusing in the initial days. Once you are practicing, it's easy. So you create a session maker, bind of this engine. So you get a session. From that session, you get a session. And from this session, you do whatever you want to do. If you want to add a records, so I can create a new record. So this is how user is a built-in, so this class, right? You created the class. For this class, it will take 3 arguments, and one of them is common. So you pass only 2 values. So sequence ID you don't pass. So then it will create an object. That object you do to the session. You add to the session, and you remember earlier we have a connection.commit, right? After doing every write, I am doing connection.commit. So here I have like after doing this thing, session.commit I have. Now you see here, insert into user tables value so and so. Don't you see exactly the code was generated? What are we thought of? Now after this, same like this, if you want to query the results, how do you did there? After doing this, you did a select star from users. In the same fashion, here, what I do, if I do like this, session.query means to get, or from this table, dot all. If I want all, I get all the records. Did you see? It is saying all these things are related. Next, after this, we will focus on the pandas, NumPy, all kinds of things, where we will work on after this web app. This was done, right? Similarly, so we will work on the panda side. Then it would be easy in terms of analyzing. Till now, using SQLite and all these things, you connect to a database and analyzed. But with pandas, things will be much more faster, and in terms of analysis also, it would be easy. If you type like AWS Cloud Free Tier, then you can go here. And if you see, by default, AWS Free Tier will get you 12 months free. With some services which are always free,